Hello guys, welcome to Python and Machine Learning Daily. On this channel and in general, I'm a big fan of practical projects. So today we'll have another practical real-life project from Upwork, process data with Python. So we will read from Excel, modify the data with some calculations, and create a new sheet in the same Excel file. So this is the original bets to analyze file, and what the client wants is to calculate the betting profits, group them by the same event. So for example, here home team, away team, and date, those two rows represent the same actual event. So they want to group it into one line and calculate the profit or loss. And this is again a real job from Upwork. You can see that the client is from United Kingdom and the price of that job is actually $5. But what I've noticed on Upwork, sometimes they do put the minimum price and the actual price is just negotiable between the client and the freelancer. So you can zoom it in. I will actually zoom it in to read it to you. So the task is to create a new sheet called distinct values, and then the client explains what to do with various columns like C, D, E, and then, as I said, rows 2 and 3 should be just one row in the new sheet. And then there's a formula for outcome, whether it's loss, win, half loss, or half win. And the result is something like this: a new sheet in the same Excel file. In this case, I'm showing in Google Sheets, but the same home and away team now represent one row with common stake, odds, and then the outcome. And this is actually another example that I wanted to show you and emphasize that the data from the client for Python tasks and scripts is often not ideal. So as a result of the calculations that the client provided with their formula and their data, the outcome didn't calculate well because some numbers weren't rounding in a proper way how client listed here. So this is kind of just as a disclaimer that our script didn't deliver for the client in one of the columns. But still, I want to show you the idea so you would learn Pandas library with another practical project, how to work with Excel, with data frames and iteration. Let's close the sidebar and let's go step by step. The code is already written. I want to save you time from me live coding it. I will just explain it. So step by step, we read the data from Excel. An important part is to convert all the data, because otherwise you will have problems with converting the data and some calculations, and you provide the sheet name of data. Then we remove the empty lines, the empty rows with those columns empty, because the original file contained empty lines, and in place true means that we are replacing the original data frame, and then we iterate through that data frame. The thing is that in this case, calculations for groups of rows can be made only after we have all the rows of that group. That's why we cannot apply something like df query, df apply, df merge or something like that. We need to iterate through rows and only then we will have the result. So we get the identifier of the event, which is teams and date, and then we build our dictionary, which is empty by default, one by one. So our row is either already existing, or if it's a new line for that particular event, we fill that in with data. The data contains the teams, the date, the sport, and the bet. But we also add the lines, the lists for all the upcoming rows of that event. And then we fill that in one by one. In the same loop, we append the current stake, profit, odds, and outcome, which are these columns. So in the end, for example, the group with identifier of this event will have 2 items in each list of these. And by the way, the code will be available on GitHub. The repository link will be in the description below. So by the end of this for loop, we will have rows, dictionary by event. And then in the dictionary, we iterate through that once more and calculate the actual numbers that the client wants. We sum all the stakes into one variable of stake. We sum the profits into the final variables. We sum the odds with a weird and long formula of Python, and we calculate the outcome. Now, that weird and long Python thing, it's a personal preference whether to write it in more so-called Pythonic way, as one-liner with a lot of operations, or maybe you prefer for readability. I provide another alternative, is good old for loop, and then calculating the odds at the end. So it's your personal preference whether to use this one or that one, and the same thing is provided for outcome. That outcome is actually a big if statement, so if this then that, then we assign the result of letter or two letters to the outcome, and again you may choose to do that with if else or with a long one-liner by Python. That's your personal preference. And then we delete those columns which were needed only for calculations. So those lists were actually just temporary variables for the calculations. And the final part of the script is get the values of that dictionary and create another data frame. It probably could be called with another variable, but that doesn't really matter. We use the same variable, and then we need to write to that Excel. And this is a bit complicated because we need to override the same Excel file, creating another sheet into it. So this is the syntax. With Excel Writer, you need to use OpenPyXL engine with mode of appending to the same file, and if sheet exists, replace it. For example, if you launch the same script twice or third time, it would override into the same file, so we create a new sheet with this name. Again, all that code will be available on GitHub. The link will be in the description below, so you can play around with that Excel yourself. But I wanted to show you this video for a practical real-life project from Upwork for real money from a real client, how to manipulate the data in Python from and to Excel sheets. What do you think about this demo project? Would you have done anything differently? Let's discuss in the comments below. And if you want more practical projects and other Python tips, subscribe to the channel and see you guys in other videos.